Hello, and welcome to our channel, your trusted destination for the latest breakthroughs, trends, and stories in the world of technology. Today, we dive into a story of evolution, not just in product design or operating systems, but in the very dynamics between two of the world's biggest tech companies, Samsung and Google. At the heart of it all lies one of the boldest experiments in modern mobile hardware, the foldable smartphone. It is a story that begins with friction and ends in true collaboration. When Samsung unveiled the newest Galaxy Z series, they did more than launch another foldable phone. These devices became the first commercial smartphones outside of Google's own Pixel line to ship pre-installed with Android 16. That milestone marks a significant shift in how Android is developed and deployed, and how Samsung and Google now work together as strategic partners rather than reluctant collaborators. But the road to this point was not smooth. In fact, as Sally Zhang, Executive Vice President and Head of Framework R&D at Samsung, candidly described in a recent interview, the early days of their collaboration with Google were, in her own words, painful. Let us rewind to 2011. Samsung launched the Galaxy Note 2, a revolutionary device for its time with a large display and a focus on productivity. To capitalize on its larger screen, Samsung pioneered a split-screen multitasking feature, multi-window. It allowed users to run two apps side by side, a concept that had never existed in Android before. But the relationship with Google was strained. Back then, Samsung had to work within strict guidelines and limitations imposed by Google, without much input into the platform's direction. Years later, in 2016, Google finally integrated split-screen functionality into Android 7 Nougat, but in doing so, they adopted an entirely different technical approach. Samsung was left with no choice but to rewrite its entire codebase to be compatible with Android's new standards. It was a grueling process that highlighted the lack of synchronization between the two tech giants. That experience became a turning point. As Samsung began its foray into foldable devices, the stakes changed. It was no longer just about optimizing software for a bigger screen. It was about reshaping how applications, interfaces, and even Android itself responded to radical new hardware. Foldables were the catalyst for real cooperation. Zhang explained that once Samsung committed to foldable phones, they had no choice but to collaborate with Google at a foundational level. It was not just about Samsung's apps working smoothly. It was about the entire Android ecosystem adapting to foldable form factors. That realization marked the beginning of what she called a serious phase of cooperation. The result was Android 12L, a version of Android launched in late 2022, specifically optimized for larger and foldable displays. Features like the persistent taskbar, introduced as part of 12L, were directly influenced by the requirements of Samsung's Galaxy Z series and other large-screen devices. From that point forward, Android became more responsive to the demands of hardware innovation. Fast forward to today, and the relationship between the two companies has matured into a model Samsung now refers to as Galaxy First, Android Wide. Many features Samsung pioneered from Nowbar to DeX are now being co-developed with Google and standardized across the Android platform. In fact, Android's future desktop mode is being shaped by input from Samsung's own interface designs. This deeper level of collaboration is also reflected in how they now build software. Previously, manufacturers like Samsung had to wait for Google to finish new versions of Android, then customize them afterward, a delay that created fragmentation and slowed innovation. Now, both companies work together, using a unified development branch known as Trunk Stable. They contribute code simultaneously, speeding up integration and allowing Samsung to ship Android 16 on its latest foldables, just 1 month after Google's official release. That is a massive shift in how Android operates, and it shows just how far Samsung's role has evolved. Zhang also highlighted another critical factor that helped smooth out the partnership: Google's decision to clearly separate its Pixel hardware division from the core Android platform team. That structural change eliminated much of the previous tension around competition and intellectual property, allowing Samsung and Google to focus on shared goals rather than stepping on each other's toes. The Galaxy Z Fold 7 and Flip 7 are not just foldable phones. They are symbols of a new era in Android development. Devices that not only run Google's newest software but help shape it. Devices that come bundled with 6 months of Google AI Pro, an integrated premium service experience that underscores just how tightly aligned the two companies have become. In the past, Samsung was often seen as the rebel of the Android world, pushing boundaries and sometimes clashing with Google over vision and implementation. Today, they are co-architects of Android's future. The painful beginnings have given way to a powerful alliance, one that is creating a better, faster, and more unified Android experience for everyone. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe and stay tuned for more deep dives into how technology is transforming the way we live, work, and connect.